I have a really bad feeling about this.
Yeah, we're pretty much screwed here. Look, you guys, I'm really sorry, but the fighter, wizard, and old man all put in PTO for the next few game sessions. So, you'll just have to deal with being a bit short-handed. Here, let me translate moron for you. There aren't enough of us to overcome the challenges in the game, and we're missing key abilities, without which we're probably screwed. Okay, so why don't you guys think of a way to overcome this impediment?
Because we're not very intelligent.
Yeah, but what if you were intelligent?
Well then I would ask some of Describe's professional writers to roll up characters and play with us for the next few game sessions. Yeah.
Oh, come on, don't be ridiculous. The fine folk at Describe.com are far too busy creating fine narrative descriptions for game masters to use in their games. And they wouldn't want to play with you anyway.
Well that sucks. What if we could get some ruthless mercenaries to help us?
Nope, I'm sorry, but corporate regulations only allow outsourcing to countries halfway around the world. That means by the time the mercenaries get here, you'd all be dead anyway.
Well then in that case, I'm putting in for personal time off too. Bye guys.
Heck yeah, that's what I'm talking about. PTO, baby. Well, just so you know, this is a living and breathing game world, and the clock is always ticking. So, there will be consequences for just doing nothing. Guys, did you hear me? You guys!
Welcome to the DM Lair. I'm Luke Hart, and I've been a dungeon master since high school. On this channel, I give practical GM advice that you can use in your D&D and RPG games. Today in the Lair, we'll be talking about ways to overcome a few of the challenges of running RPGs, such as D&D, for smaller groups of players, that is, fewer than 4. Now, running an RPG for small groups is much easier than running it for large groups, so you have that going for you. The things you might often struggle with in a large group are much less of an issue with small groups, but small groups do have their own unique struggles. But first, are you a game master who sometimes struggles with narrating the really cool parts of your RPG? Would you like to be able to deliver better descriptions to your players and stumble over your words a bit less? If so, I highly recommend you check out Describe. Describe.com has thousands of narrative descriptions of monsters, places, spells, characters, and items. And it's easy to use too. You simply go to Describe.com, type in the name of the thing you'd like a description for. In this case, I'm looking for an ettercap. I click what I need in the search results, and then I have an awesome narrative description of a hideous ettercap I can read to my players. I might also supplement it with some gloriously gruesome phase spiders as well. Now, many of the scenes are completely free, so you can check out Describe at absolutely no cost, and hundreds more are available with a paid subscription. New content is constantly being released too, which gives you even more bang for your buck. So if you want to take your game to the next level and deliver awesome narration to your players, check out Describe at the link below. And make sure you use the coupon code TheDMLayer to get 10% off your first subscription payment. Number 1, there aren't enough PCs. The group isn't strong enough. This problem results from a couple different things. The first could be if you were running a module that is designed for 4 to 6 players, but you only have maybe 2 or 3, or maybe just 1. How do you run a module for your group then? The other issue results from the way action economy works in the game. In essence, if the bad guys outnumber the good guys, the advantage will lie with the side that has more combatants, even if the challenge rating of the encounter might indicate otherwise. Yes, I know the math and rules are supposed to take that into account, but they don't, not really. The CR system is corrupt and broken. We know this, we acknowledge this, yes, thank you. You can only trust it so far before it steals your kids' college savings and takes out a second mortgage on your home behind your back. It is not to be trusted. So there are some basic strategies to help with these issues. Number 1, give the party some more warm bodies. Warm bodies are usually good, right? Unless you're in like Africa or something where it's really, really hot, and then you might not need warm bodies. You know what? Let's just pretend like we're playing D&D though, right? Anyway, so give your players' characters folks in the game that can help them during encounters and combat. And there are a few different ways to go about doing this. First, players can run more than one PC. When I game mastered one-on-one for my daughter, there were 4 PCs. She ran 2 of them, I ran 2 of them. Yes, this was the dreaded DMPC situation, but don't worry, I definitely avoided all of the classic pitfalls of DMPCs, I assure you. Of course, if you have at least 2 players, your life is much easier. Each player could run 2 characters, giving the group a total of 4, I can math, and your job is done. And there are benefits to this beyond just giving more PCs to the group. It allows your players to run more than one character, which they may enjoy. There's more variety to what they can do in the game, but the downside is that PCs are fairly complicated and some players just can't handle the burden, apparently, running more than one PC. I mean, I have players whose brains seem to burn up and boil over just trying to pick out spells for their one PC, but let's talk about that in a live stream. I just got dive bombed by a bug. All right, that's a sign to keep moving on. I mean, like, some players, bless their lovely hearts, can barely manage to run one character, and if they had to run 2 characters, their brains would like melt into a puddle on the battle map and all over the minis. It would be a disaster. Okay, now we are moving on. And if I just described you, I do apologize. I get a little animated and at times, and I'm a very offensive, bad person. Leave an angry comment down below, thank you. The next way to provide more warm bodies is by hirelings, or NPCs. Hirelings are basically mercenaries that the PCs can hire to go along with them, thus hirelings. You hire them to go a-ling with you. We're just making this crap up, guys. Just bear with me here. NPCs are people that you, the game master, might devise to go along with and help the PCs, usually for reasons that have something to do with the ongoing plot and story. Now, my recommendation here is to lean toward hirelings that are a bit weaker than the PCs themselves, and don't create the hirelings with full-blown character sheets. Instead, either use the sidekick rules in Tasha's, or create a stat block, much like you would for a monster, that the players can use. And that's my second recommendation. Have the players control the hirelings, if they're capable of doing so without the aforementioned brain-melting complication, of course. You have a lot going on for you as a game master. Don't add running hirelings to your plate if you can avoid it. Like maybe you RP the hirelings outside combat, but in combat, the players should be running the hirelings, in my opinion. Now, if you do go with NPCs, that's fine. It's kind of like the tomato-tomato situation as well. But NPCs tend to be more important to the plot or story, and you'll be tempted to give them plot armor. Or the players will feel obligated to protect them, you know, the often dreaded NPC babysitting situation. Whereas with hirelings, if they die, they die. Technically, hirelings are NPCs. You know, don't get too caught up in the details here. Though I might add, if the characters get a reputation for churning through hirelings, future hirelings might refuse their employ because, you know, they'll likely end up dead. You see, mercenaries do want to make money, but they also want to live to spend that money. Usually. So, if you go with an NPC, cool, but do not make them more powerful than the player's characters, and make sure they're just as vulnerable to death as everyone else in the group. I would also suggest that you have players run the NPC in combat too, even if you, the game master, roleplay the NPC out of combat. Next, you could go with a DMPC, but it's generally best avoided. There are too many pitfalls involved, and many game masters are likely to fall face first into them. And everybody who's like, I've successfully run DMPCs without issues, you know, leave your angry comments down below. You know how this works. Yeah. The next strategy to help with not having enough PCs in the group is to adjust your encounters. The basic idea is to keep action economy in mind when you are doing so. And what does that mean? Action economy, in essence, is how many times can X PC or monster do something in one round of combat. So if your PC can attack twice in a round, we'll say the PC's action economy is 2. If my monster can attack once in a round, we'll say its action economy is 1. So if there are 2 PCs with action economies of 2 each, the total action economy of the group is multiplication 4. Now, if I deploy 8 monsters against them, and each has an action economy of 1, my group of monsters has a total action economy of 8, double that of the PC's group. That means that for every time the PCs attack, they'll get attacked twice by the monsters. So the action economy will favor the monsters in many situations. It doesn't mean that whoever has the action economy advantage will always have an advantage, but when you're dealing with PCs and monsters mostly close to each other in power and challenge rating and all that good stuff, it does. For instance, if I have 2 level 10 characters with 2 attacks each and 12 CR 1/4 goblins with 1 attack each, I can't say that word. It's attack, Luke. It's attack. Okay, the goblins have 1 attack each. There we go. Trust me, the PCs are going to mop the floor with the pitiful goblins, but that's because the power difference between the two is so great. If it were more equal, things would be different. Okay, so how do we design encounters with action economy in mind? There are 2 ways to go about it. One is a rule of thumb, the other is slightly more sophisticated. First, the rule of thumb is to not have there be more enemies than there are PCs. That helps balance action economy in many situations. However, if you want to take it a bit further, consider how many attacks, such as swinging swords, casting spells, etc., your PCs can do and compare it to how many the group of monsters can do. If they're roughly equal, give or take a little in either direction, action economy is mostly balanced. Next, if you want to take it to the next level, I would calculate the encounter using the challenge rating system first. Online CR calculators such as the one on D&D Beyond are your friend here. And then I would compare action economies. If there is a gross imbalance either way, that would make the encounter easier or harder than the CR system would otherwise indicate. And then you adjust things if you want. I do want to say here though that not everything need be balanced. It's okay if the PCs run into baddies that are really tough from time to time, or really weak for that matter. Variety is the spice of life, and different levels of challenge are a good thing in my opinion. I occasionally throw a monster in the game that my players have almost 0 chance of defeating just to see what they do and how they handle it. Of course, when I do so, I make sure that there are other options to resolve that encounter besides combat, since I know they're likely to lose if they start a fight. Remember, bad guys have other motivations besides just murdering and pillaging, no matter what your players' motivations are. By the way, if you're enjoying this video or just want to have mercy on my pitiful soul, give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment for the algorithm down below. Let YouTube know that I don't suck. Finally, if the PCs need a power boost to handle the challenges in the game, give them more magic items, especially consumable ones. Now, you've probably heard me rant several times about giving out magic items like they're candy because it shifts the balance of power of the game in favor of the PCs. But that's exactly what you're looking to do in the case of a small group. So this is your excuse to happily ignore me and give your players some really cool magic items to up their power. Of course, if you're not really ignoring me because I kind of just told you to do it. I will still recommend going with more consumables like potions and scrolls over permanent magic items, but the latter should still be bumped up a bit too. Issue number 2 with small groups: key roles aren't covered by the PCs. The essence of this problem is that since there are only, say, 2 players and thus only 2 PCs, they don't have all of the skills that are required by the game. For instance, say that you don't have a rogue who is good at finding and disabling traps. That could be a liability for the group. Or you might not have a utility spellcaster, typically a wizard, which will cause you to feel some real pain at the later levels of play. Or you don't have a healer. Not that dedicated healers are really needed in 5th edition. But an even bigger problem, in my opinion, is when there are no frontline melee types, and the players are all playing squishy dudes or spellcasters. That could really cause problems right away. So there are a variety of ways to handle this. Number 1, tell your players to build their party and create their PCs wisely and just deal with it. This would probably be my preferred method if you have veteran players. Yo guys, there are only 2 of you. You can expect bad guys to be mostly melee weapon combatants and archers with a speckling of casters. It's up to you to build your group to handle that. That means if you create a wizard and an archer, you had better have a plan for how you'll deal with frontliner melee types rushing up next to you all the time. Or this might be a short campaign. The drawback of this approach, of course, is that players might not get to play the class they want to, and I want my players to enjoy themselves and have fun. And it depends on the player, of course, but some folks just don't enjoy playing PCs they are forced into, so this method might not be the best for that reason. Number 2, give your players hirelings or NPCs to help fill the skill and ability gaps. Need a rogue? Get a rogue hireling. Feel like you really need healing? The mercs got those too. This is a good, solid approach and will work well for 90% of small groups, I feel. Number 3, adjust your game and encounters according to their party makeup. This is probably the method I recommend the least, not only because it's a big old giant pain in the butt for the game master, but also because it's not realistic whatsoever to have a game world with encounters that just magically happen to account for the group's lack of key abilities. And I am very big on creating believable worlds in RPG games. Also, do you really want to adjust every single encounter in the module? Maybe not. But then again, I find myself adjusting many of the encounters anyway, and my groups are average sized and have most of the key roles covered, so maybe there isn't too much of a difference there. Furthermore, this approach also assumes that you know how to adjust encounters in this manner, and if you're a newish game master, you might not. At any rate, this is an option, but just be aware that it involves a lot more effort for the game master, even though it's often enjoyable effort, in my opinion. Number 4, let your players create gestalt characters. Gestalt PCs are basically a PC that levels up in 2 classes at the same time. Now, I don't have any official rules for doing this, but I bet a Google search might help you find something for your specific game system. Yeah, this could be a cool way for players to get access to more skills and abilities to help them overcome challenges, and they might have a blast doing it. It also makes their PCs more powerful to a degree, though action economy would still be a limiting factor, which helps a bit with the first issue of small groups being less powerful. Number 5, provide magic items such as scrolls and potions or even special abilities that will help fill in skill gaps. In my Wonder Panda campaign, the characters were all from an alternate plane of existence, and when they were teleported into the plane the campaign took place in, they were infused with magic that not only allowed them to use scrolls, but also gave them special abilities, including spellcasting. Now, of all the various options I've given you for overcoming the downsides of running small groups, which do I think are the best and easiest to implement? Give your groups a couple hirelings that they run in combat and bump up the number of consumable magic items they get. Healing potions, other types of potions, and scrolls. Those 2 things have a very good chance to resolve most of the pain points of a small group, in my opinion, with the least amount of effort from the dungeon master or the players. Click on the screen now to binge on another fine DM Lair video, or to become a DM Lair patron and get an issue of Lair magazine every month. And until next time, let's play D&D.